Welcome back on board the Starship. Now, a few months ago, I invited Alan Turnbull to speak on the Starship, who spoke about military bases. Now, he runs the website secretbases.co.uk, which describes UK military bases and establishment in very impressive detail. Now, Alan has spent some time investigating one base called the Heapey base. Now, this base is just outside Manchester and is basically buried underneath a hillside near Chorley. The hill houses magazines, which you can actually see from the nearby hillside. Now, a great deal of secrecy surrounds this base. Nobody really knows what it is or what it was used for. And some rumours actually claim that when steam trains were decommissioned, they were sent to this particular base and stored underground for strategic reasons. So perhaps they could be used in the future in case of an emergency. Now, for example, let's say there was an advanced weapon of some kind which knocked out all electrical devices, so no electrical devices work, the steam trains would still work. Now, that's the conspiracy theory, that there's all of these pristine steam trains under this hillside in Chorley. Now, so Alan Turnbull was very intrigued by all of this, and he did some digging and some investigating. So we're going to hear what Alan has got to say about it. One of the theories about this place is that in the 1950s, when steam trains were being decommissioned, they were actually stored here, and that some people believe that there are still steam trains actually hidden within the side of this mountain, or hillside, shall we say, and that the reason, or one of the reasons why they are stored there, is that if there was some kind of military strike, our normal trains, which have electronic control systems, would be knocked out, and we could then bring back this hidden supply of steam trains to our railways, which would save the day, kind of thing. Well, what do you think of that then, Alan?
Well, it's a very interesting and hugely popular conspiracy theory, alive on the internet for many years. And you can understand how it's grown in momentum, because there's the whole romance of the steam train era, perpetuated by enthusiasts of steam trains, and you can't blame them. Part of them wants it to be true, to bring back steam trains at some stage in the future. The theory goes that at the time the steam trains were being decommissioned and brought out of stock, that not all of them went for legitimate scrap, because the numbers don't tally quite. And the theory goes that many of the steam trains were squirreled away in storage bases, one of which we're standing outside now. And the thought is that they were stored in huge tunnels, underground networks in the hillside behind us, with a view to, in the event of perhaps a nuclear strike on Britain, which would obviously zap out any diesel train electronic systems, in the event of an electromagnetic pulse. The thought that the steam trains would not be affected by that. But of course, when you delve further into the theory, you realise that steam trains, by their very nature, need to be fired up regularly, almost daily, to make them workable. So that to have them stored for years on end in a hillside is not practical, although the romance behind the story is quite understandable.
But what about the extremely large rail junction is it still here?
No, well,
it used to be here.
Back in the 60s, I've studied aerial photography from the 1960s, and it shows a huge marshalling yard immediately adjacent to the depot we're standing outside. And I think that has led to the momentum behind the conspiracy theory, because yes, there was a huge marshalling yard for these trains. Yes, the steam trains were for a while stored here in the marshalling yard, but not necessarily within Heapey depot. So the two of those things married together has led extra weight to the theory.
Now, this particular depot that we're standing outside is a sub-branch of the BAE's Royal Ordnance industry, and we know that Royal Ordnance basically makes weapons. Now, my gut instinct would be that this place is something to do with storing things to do with weapon systems.
That's precisely the case. Specifically, Heapey Depot has always been a sub-depot to the Royal Ordnance factory at Chorley. Now, ROF Chorley no longer exists, and indeed it's been flattened and built upon. There's a huge housing estate there now. I don't think it's actually been fully completed.
But strangely, this place is still active.
It's
We
not
know that
only-
because we were met by security when we appeared at the gate.
Yes, we had an interesting visit from some gentlemen in a van. Not surprisingly, this is a very sensitive site, but it's not sensitive for the reasons that many conspiracy theorists believe.
Okay.
It's sensitive because basically, yes, it's still used by BAE Systems, a major defence contractor, for storage of various munitions, maybe possibly even missile systems and electronics, although that's not been proven. Certainly it is a storage base, as it always has been, for munitions made by BAE Systems, now what was Royal Ordnance.
And you've uncovered some new information which gives a clearer view of what you think may have been stored or is indeed stored here. What have you found, Alan?
Even more exciting than the supposed steam train collections hidden inside the hillside.
Okay.
I've unearthed concrete evidence from academic papers and recently released official papers in the National Archive, what used to be called the Public Records Office, that confirm that Royal Ordnance Factory Chorley was the location in the late 50s and early 60s, possibly even through to the mid-1970s, for a formerly top-secret project called Project Crystal. And for the first time, that name can be released, and it refers to, at the time, a top-secret project which was the distillation of lithium from its raw form, its natural raw form, into its radioactive isotope lithium-6, which was then used in the early thermonuclear weapons projects as a trigger mechanism.
Okay. So where would the actual purification of the lithium take place? Where was the separation done?
The separation distillation process, which itself was the top secret project under the name Project Crystal, was carried. The research was originally carried out through Harwell in Oxfordshire and also Capenhurst near Chester.
Okay.
I mean, Capenhurst to this day is still well known to be a uranium enrichment plant.
Okay.
And back in the 1950s, it was used as an initial test bed for the development of this top-secret Project Crystal. Eventually, the people at Capenhurst and down in Harwell got together to select a site for the full-blown project to go ahead on the full scale, and that location was the Royal Ordnance Factory at Chorley. My suggestion is that, obviously, with Heapey being a well-known, well-established sub-depot to ROF Chorley.
And how far away are we from?
Just the other side of the motorway.
Okay.
So it's not, and obviously a Royal Ordnance Factory needs a remote storage site because it makes no sense to store either the raw materials, the components, or the finished material at the same site that you're developing at. So that it's not a huge leap of the imagination to suggest that for this top secret project, Crystal, in the late 1950s throughout the 60s, that Heapey itself was used to store either the raw lithium in its unrefined form, or even the various component parts of the project as it developed.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask you about the lithium itself, because lithium is not used as the main explosive in a nuclear weapon. It is used to set off the nuclear weapon.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Correct
I mean,
to say, Alan?
Indeed. Lithium is a key component of the trigger mechanism in a thermonuclear weapon. Not raw lithium, obviously. That's in the same token that uranium needs to be refined and enriched into weapons grade uranium. The raw material lithium in the various stages of the trigger mechanism of thermonuclear weapons, it has to be refined and distilled into this radioisotope, lithium-6, and it's that specific isotope that is used in a mini explosion, if you can put it in those terms, to trigger the full-scale weapon.
I've heard rumours at that particular Heapey base that late at night, very bright lights are seen, almost like a Christmas tree, and large trucks arrive and things are unloaded. So what's going on there, Alan?
Well, I've heard the same rumours, and that phrase that you use, lighting up like a Christmas tree, is one that I've heard too on various internet rumours. And I think that can be explained by the fact that the Heapey site is sensitive to this day, but in a different sense.
Okay.
Now, I believe, although I have no concrete proof to the effect, I believe that it's currently used for the furnishing of current theatres of war with conventional munitions.
Okay. So it's used to store conventional munitions as well as the detonation devices for the lithium. Do you think there's lithium-6 still there now?
I would doubt very much if that's the case,
Okay.
and it's very difficult to unearth any
Right.
evidence to that effect.
Okay. Now we did bump into a security guard, and when we mentioned the train theory to him, he kind of smiled and.
Yes, he seemed very world-weary and almost sick and tired of fending off people. But when we approached him with the suggestion that we're doing a programme about something based on solid research, backed up with material from the National Archives, I think the mood changed then, and he actually said, well, we're actually covered by the Official Secrets Act here, and we don't want to get into anything.
As well as the security guard that we spoke to, we met one of the locals, and they did actually tell us they'd lived there for many, many years, and only last year they'd been invited into that particular base, and he said, well, he admitted that there were rumours of trains, but he said that he didn't see any.
Well, that doesn't surprise me in the least, because there's never been any evidence of trains being stored in those, and in fact they're not so much tunnels, more standard munitions magazines, and I've had access for some time to some detailed Ordnance Survey mapping of that site, and it doesn't show long tunnels that any trains could get into anyway.
Okay. Now when we went there, Alan, there were two security guards, but they were subcontractors. They weren't exactly, they didn't look armed or anything like that. It wasn't what I would call high security. I've worked at Faslane and Coulport bases, and when you go to the gates there, you're basically met with two guys with submachine guns.
Exactly. On this occasion, it was quite comical that we went through the first gate, which was wide open, and actually came up to the second gate, which was the higher security, although even that wasn't brilliant high security. And we managed to catch them on the hop. They'd returned from the chip shop for their lunch. So it was quite a comical sight.
So for that reason, I doubt that there's certainly no nuclear weapons there, but but the lithium, as you say, was stored there in the past. So you think that there's conventional weapons at that site?
There always has been conventional munitions at Heapey. That's what it's used for, as a remote storage base, as a satellite from Royal Ordnance Factory Chorley. Obviously, as you can see, with the huge housing estate that has replaced ROF Chorley, and this behind me now is the only thing that remains of it, the reception building. To this day, BAE Systems still have an important interest in the Heapey depot, purely because it's a very handy storage depot. And I believe that current theatres of war, Iraq and Afghanistan, are being furnished with standard munitions from that site.
Right.
And that would more than likely explain the visits by lorries loading and offloading. And in terms of the 3 o'clock in the morning aspect, I think that can be explained away by simply because the roads are quiet at that time in the morning. Why have a vast load of munitions on the road at peak traffic times? It doesn't make sense.
Okay then, Alan, well, thank you very much indeed for bringing us to this rather intriguing place, and just so that viewers can have a look on your website, because it is a superb website, I recommend people log on to there. Tell us what the domain name is.
It's www.secret-bases.co.uk.
Okay then, thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Very interesting stuff there from Alan Turnbull, and it just remains for me and Ulysses to say, keep your eyes on the skies, keep your feet on the ground, and tell all your friends about this show. I will be speaking in Newcastle upon Tyne on Thursday the 7th of October 2010. Doors open at 7 p.m. For full details, log on to the website richplanet.net.